We're back on Get Up, and of course the NBA Finals are tied at a game apiece. Let's check in on how the biggest stars are doing. Been sort of a tough debut Finals for Jason Tatum. He shot 3 of 17 in Game 1, then had a plus-minus of -36 in Game 2, which was the worst in any game in his career. As for Klay Thompson, he's really struggling from the floor, shooting 30% in the series, 4 of 19 in Game 2, 1 of 8 from three-point range. Steph Curry, meanwhile, has picked up the slack. He leads all players with 63 points, and he has held opponents to 5 of 18 shooting on the defensive end. Here's Draymond Green with more on the great Steph Curry.
Our offense is always a lot of Steph. It all starts with Steph. Whether, when KD was here, our offense still started with Steph. And, that's the way it's going to be.
So he says that, and of course, everyone immediately starts texting me, Greeny, he brought up KD again, Greeny, he brought up KD again. Now, that actually sounds, as you hear it, like sort of, that did not sound like he was trying to take a shot necessarily at Kevin Durant, the way he said it there. How did you interpret that?
I thought he was just providing context for how the Warriors have always played with Steph Curry, and they have publicly said this. Steve Kerr talked about this about halfway through that first year with Kevin Durant. They realized in December of that year, oh my gosh, we need to actually involve Steph more, because Kevin Durant is, to me, like the ultimate plug-and-play guy. You don't need to necessarily call plays for Kevin. Kevin's going to go get 30. That's just how good he is. He does it all within the context of whatever offense you're running. And I didn't see this in any way as Draymond taking some sort of shot at Kevin Durant.
Did you, CJ?
I didn't think he was taking a shot, because I actually believe that he truly believes everything that he says is true, regardless of whether or not it is. But I think historically, Kevin Durant's name has been coming up because he's a great player, and a lot of times I think the Warriors feel slighted on those championships because a lot of people bring up KD's presence, what he did, and how essentially he's the reason why they won, and they feel like they're a team. But I think when he brought up the fact that he believes Steph was double-teamed 7 times as much as KD, I thought that was a little much. And I don't know if that was for clicks, but I'm going to ask Dre about that specifically, because even if he believes Steph was double-teamed more, there's no way it was 7 times more, because as JJ referenced, KD averages 30 a game for his career in the finals. He is the guy who can create and manufacture points better than anyone I've seen.
Well, it's interesting. There is clearly something there, right? I mean, Draymond and Kevin, we saw it. We saw it bubble over at one point while they were teammates in a very obvious and public way. And it all sort of, it manifested itself to wherever it manifested itself. So there is some history there, whether he meant it this way or not. We're now in a place where every time he mentions Kevin Durant's name, immediately the antenna go up.
Absolutely. Now we're kind of clocking it, right? Every time it's brought up. And I think a reporter pointed out that they specifically asked him about Kevin Durant when he mentioned the fact that the offense has historically revolved around Steph. I don't think that was a shot. I think that was matter of fact. Like, the offense has to revolve around him because KD can go get 30 without a play being called for him. Steph is obviously a great player, all-world player, but he's 6'3", so you have to kind of give him space, give him opportunity, be mindful of where he's at all times to make sure that he's constantly involved in the action. But I think all in all, they both have a mutual respect and love for each other. They won championships together, and obviously there was some discretion at points in time throughout their career with the obvious interaction they had on the bench that one time. But I think it's being overblown. I don't think Kay is really tripping. I'll have to ask him in the group chat. Shout out to the group chat.
Fair enough. That's a group chat I'd like in on, by the way. I don't want to contribute. I just would like to read the things that go back and forth.
This is not for the world to see.
I had a feeling. So, JJ, how about it? I mean, at the end of the day, are they better off this way? No one is better not having Kevin Durant on their team, but there does feel like there would be something in the historical record if they win it before they had him, and then they win it with him, and then they win it after he leaves. It does feel as though if you're looking for some way to elevate those 3 guys, the 3 members of the core of Golden State, that would be the ticket.
Oh, for sure. And look, I think regardless of how people feel about those Kevin Durant Warriors teams, the legacy of Steph and Klay and Draymond is secure. Like, these guys, to make 6 finals in 8 years, to have the Hall of Fame career that they've all had, they are going to have a legacy. The reality is, look, Kevin Durant was the best player on those Warriors teams. And if you go look at those finals, Steph was awesome. Draymond talked about this last week. Steph was fantastic. In 17, they were 16-1 in that playoff run. Kevin Durant was the first player since Shaq in 2002 to score 30 in every game of the finals. And in both 17 and 18, he hit key buckets down the stretch of those back-breaking games against the Cavaliers.
But It was almost like it was, I mean, you were out there competing against them, obviously, so you would know better. It was almost unfair, right? When you take a team that was already that good and you take out nothing, you don't trade for them, you just get Kevin Durant, you just add maybe the greatest scorer that ever lived. It almost felt like the whole thing was unfair. So whether KD or Steph was the best player, the whole thing felt something like a cheat code. Was it that way when you played against them?
Yeah, I mean, I was disappointed in him for doing that, and I told him about it, and he kind of laughed and was like, I had a right of free will. He can do what he wants, and I respected the fact that he made that decision knowing people would be angry at him because of how good the Warriors were, but also I think it challenged him to play a different type of game, and I think JJ referenced it. He was a plug and play, right? He had to learn a new system. He had to play alongside great players, and I think he became a more well-rounded basketball player, and that's what we're seeing now. But obviously, I was on vacation reading, and I was like, this can't be serious. I had lost to the Warriors before he got there. Obviously, we ended up losing once he got there, but I think, as JJ referenced, there's no debates about who was the best player on that team. We know it was Kevin Durant. Steph knows it was Kevin Durant. Dre, deep down, he knows it was Kevin Durant, and obviously K knows he was the best player on that team as well.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, let's put a little bookmark in that. We can come back to it as we continue because, as far as historical greatness, I think that's become something of a question during this series. In the meantime, thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.